The world can end in many ways, but the vision of poisoned air, toxic lands, and deadly clouds is among the most terrifying. In this ranking, you'll discover films that show how fragile civilization really is and how easily the line between hope and despair can disappear. And at the very end, I've prepared something special, not a post-apocalyptic story, but a film that has already earned high praise from critics, and I want to share it with you. State of emergency. In a quiet town, a powerful explosion suddenly rocks a nearby chemical factory. A toxic cloud rises into the air, and ordinary people begin to transform into bloodthirsty beasts. The streets are silent, broken only by terrifying screams and the sounds of pursuit. Jim, a random witness to the tragedy, becomes one of the few survivors and begins a desperate fight for his life. Over time, he meets others, but it quickly becomes clear that the greatest threat is not always monsters. Sometimes it is fear, paranoia, and human decisions. This story does not rely on special effects, but on a stifling atmosphere and the feeling that death can come at any moment. It is a survival story that is all the more compelling because it shows how easily people can lose control when the world is falling apart. Scorched Earth. What if humanity had destroyed its planet so badly that breathing became a deadly risk? In the world of Scorched Earth, that's exactly what happened. The air is poisonous, the land is scorched, and the rivers are full of toxins. The remnants of civilization have broken down into brutal enclaves where survival means fighting to the death. Amidst this hell, Gage appears, a ruthless bounty hunter whose job is to track down the worst criminals. Her new target is not just any bandit, but a man who has built his own empire on suffering and chaos. So she sets off across the ravaged lands where every step could mean an ambush and every ally could betray her. This is not only a story about hunting, but also a question of whether there is still room for justice and humanity in a world after the end of civilization. A breath away. Paris suddenly falls silent. A thick, poisonous fog rises from the sewers, basements, and streets, engulfing the entire city in a matter of minutes. Those who survive hide high up, on rooftops, balconies, and the top floors of buildings, where the air is still clean. In this hell, Mathieu and Anna desperately try to save their daughter, who suffers from an illness that has left her trapped in a special capsule. Every descent into the thickening fog is a game with death, and every return to the top may be the last. A Breath Away combines an intimate family drama with an apocalyptic atmosphere, where the greatest enemy is not monsters, but nature itself. It is a story of love, fear, and determination, showing that sometimes a single breath can cost a life, or save it. What still remains? What if you woke up in a world where everything you knew had been destroyed by a mysterious plague? In What Still Remains, civilization has collapsed, and those who survived are hiding in forests and ruins, fleeing from gangs and sects preying on fear. Anna, a young woman, has spent her entire life in isolation, away from people. When she loses her family, she sets out on a journey, looking for a place where she can start over. She meets a group that promises her safety, but it soon turns out that what remains of humanity may not be better than loneliness. The film asks the question, what is more dangerous? A world full of threats, or a person who exploits chaos for their own purposes? It is a story about survival, trust, and the thin line between hope and naivety. I.O. Have you ever wondered what the world would look like if all of humanity abandoned their planet? In I.O., Earth has been poisoned by toxins, and most people have fled to orbital colonies. Only a handful of stubborn individuals remain on the surface, believing that the planet can still be reborn. Sam, a young scientist, conducts solitary experiments, living in the silence of an abandoned world and trying to find a way to save the atmosphere. Her days are spent researching and fighting loneliness, until she meets Michel, the last wanderer heading for the last shuttle leaving Earth. He believes in escape. She believes in rescue. Their meeting becomes a clash of two visions of the future. To give up and join the rest of humanity in space, or to risk one's life to save a world that everyone else has already written off. It is a quiet, melancholic story about hope, loss, and the question of how much it is worth to remain on one's own planet. Only, the sky is covered with mysterious dust that forever changes the course of humanity. A deadly plague attacks women, and one by one they begin to disappear until almost only men remain in the world. In this reality, Will hides his partner Eva, one of the last women on Earth, from soldiers and desperate survivors who see her as both a hope and a threat. Their life is a constant escape, fear of the outside world, and a desperate attempt to protect what remains of normality. As isolation begins to weigh heavily on them and the threat draws ever closer, a question arises between them. How much are we willing to sacrifice for love when every breath could be our last? It is an intimate and stifling story, showing the apocalypse not on a global scale, but within four walls, where everything is at stake. 2067. The future in 2067 is terrifying. Forests have turned into dead deserts, and the air has become poisonous. People can only breathe thanks to artificial oxygen produced by ruthless corporations that control what remains of civilization. When all hope seems lost, a mysterious message from the future arrives with one name, Ethan White. An ordinary technician is suddenly drawn into a mission that could change the fate of all humanity. To find the answer, he must travel to the year 2067 and face the vision of his own death, uncovering secrets that may be even darker than the end of the world itself. It is a journey through time that shows that the greatest threat to man is not always nature. Sometimes it is man himself. The Midnight Sky. In the ice-bound Arctic, where silence seems to absorb every sound, a lone scientist named Augustine observes the slow death of the planet. Earth has been destroyed by a catastrophe whose details no longer matter. All that matters is that no one can survive here anymore. The only hope is the crew of a spaceship returning from a mission, unaware that their home has turned into a dead sphere. Augustine, sick and growing weaker, makes a desperate attempt to warn them, traversing the icy wasteland and facing his own limitations. Unexpectedly, he also finds a companion, a silent girl who reminds him that even in the face of the end of the world, people still need other people. The Midnight Sky is a story about loneliness, hope, and the race against time, where every signal can decide the fate of the last humans. Silent Night. At first glance, it looks like the perfect holiday. Family and friends gathered in a beautiful house in the English countryside, around a table laden with food and memories. But beneath this facade lies a terrible secret. A toxic cloud is spreading across the world, bringing certain death. Everyone present knows that this is the last night of their lives. Instead of fleeing, there's only one thing left to do: spend the end together, pretending everything is normal, joking, arguing, and trying to forget the inevitable. Silent Night combines black comedy with apocalyptic drama, showing how differently people react when there is no tomorrow. It is a bitter, perverse story about how even the end of the world can be experienced with a glass of wine in your hand and a forced smile on your face. Captain Nova. The future here does not look like a cosmic adventure, but rather a nightmare. Earth destroyed by climate change, oceans dried up, and air heavy as poison. In such a world, humanity has no hope left, so time travel becomes the last resort. Nova, a pilot from the future, travels back several decades to warn people of the catastrophe, but a side effect causes her to arrive in the past as a teenager. She has knowledge, she has a mission, but no one takes her seriously. Together with a chance ally, she tries to prove that the end of the world is really coming. Captain Nova is a combination of adventure cinema and a powerful climate warning, a story about how difficult it is to get the truth across in a world that doesn't want to hear it. That's the end of our ranking of the best toxic apocalypse movies. But before we move on, don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which movie impressed you the most. And now it's time for something special. I'll show you the latest film, not post-apocalyptic, but already earning great reviews from critics. One battle after another. There is tension in the streets, as if every breath could be the start of another battle. Bob, a former revolutionary, tries to live a peaceful life, but the past comes back with full force when his old enemy, Colonel Lockjaw, appears. After 16 years of silence, he faces him, and the stakes are high. Bob's daughter suddenly disappears. It's not just a fight for his family, but also a return to a world of betrayal, conspiracy, and anger that was supposed to be forgotten. Paul Thomas Anderson's film turns personal drama into a suspenseful spectacle, where the line between politics and private hell blurs with every passing minute. It is a story about how no revolution ever really ends, and the past always comes back to haunt us.